Oh, eek. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1554. Why James Bond movies? Why not? Sorry, I was just doing a quick search for, there's a specific series of books that I am looking for, and I think I know who the author is, but it's not showing up on the author page. And I know I have read the books, so now I am going through my Dawn Brown, that was the one, and I just found the author. That makes it easier. I knew he was a D, but the first name began with a D and the last name with a Brown. That's the one I was looking for. Yes. Okay. All right. Now I'm happy again. All right. So I thought, because people keep asking me, why do you watch James Bond movies every November? Okay, here's the reason I watch it every November, because movie releases for the new James Bond movies either happen at the end of in the later half of November or the beginning of December. So if I watch all the James Bond movies up until, because when you're watching the James Bond movies, if you are watching closely, there are references to past James Bond movies in them. The 25th one, Time to Die, that one, you could find a whole bunch of stuff that referred to the previous 24 movies. And I was like, and like you go into they even had like the archive room where you go in, there was all the different toys and gadgets and things that James Bond had played with over the years. And you could sit there and go, oh yeah, that was in that movie, that was in that one. Oh, there's little Betty and little Nellie, and there's da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So there's a whole bunch of things. And one of the Pierce Brosnan ones, the world is not enough. I think that was the one. Hang on. I got to go over to my other thing here. Yeah, the world is not, I think it's the world is not enough. What I was writing down in my, hang on, 17. Hang on, one moment, please. It was the world is not enough or Die Another Day. One of those, it was either World is Not Enough or Die Another Day. They had references to past James Bond movies in there. And there's even in one scene in there where Pierce Brosnan, who was playing James Bond at the time, was reading a newspaper, and one of the newspapers, the article heading was Diamonds Are Forever. And of course, referencing the Diamonds Are Forever movie that starred hang on. That was Sean Connery's last one. Pretty sure that was Sean Connery's last one. Yeah, Diamonds Are Forever was Sean Connery's last movie, last James Bond film that he did. So there's all these different references that you can find in different movies and things. And she's chomping on her stick. So it's kind of cool when you can watch, you're so used to it. So that's why I would always watch in November, because either mid to end November or beginning of December is when a new James Bond movie would typically come out. Typically, not always, but typically. So I always wanted to get catched up and refresh the brain of what I've seen in different James Bond movies. I always tend to find something new. And one thing I find interesting is that when you're watching the movies from the very first one in 1962, which was Dr. No, which we watched last night, all the way through to the last movie, is you get to see the changes of technology over time because they kept up with technology. You can also see the changes in how the movie was shot and the stunts that they did and the special effects that they had as different things became available over time. So it's a great series to see. This is how we filmed in 1962. This is how we filmed in 2021. Seeing those changes. Actually, I started filming Dr. No in 1961. So from then through to when the release of the last movie came out in 2021, in that 60-year span, that's 60 years, 25 movies in 60 years. I know it's hard to believe, but watching the movie, as you watch one movie to the next, you see the progression of technology, the progression of what they're able to do in a movie, based on what technology was available, the skills that were now available, the cinematography gets different as well. So it's very interesting just watching how things change over time. But I also like James Bond movie because it's a spy movie. One of my favorite genres to read is action adventure thrillers. I love spy books. I love spy movies. I love action books, action movies. I love thrillers. And I was putting down a list here, and I don't care if they're military. I love the military ones, the political ones, the straight out spy ones. Yeah, all sorts of different stuff going in there. And I was like thinking, what else do I like? The exotic locations, all the different locations around the world that they have filmed James Bond movies. How many times you sit there and go, oh, I'd love to go. And you see that beautiful view. It's like, oh, where was that? And you go and look up to see where their filming locations were. And maybe that goes on to your travel list that you want to do years and, that you want to put together like a James. Actually, that'll be a good one to do. Hang on, I got to write that one down. James Bond World Tour. That would be cool, where you include like different locations, include filming locations. That would be a good one to do. Ooh, I have to think about that one. So there's the exotic locations around the world, the cars. I love the Aston Martin. When they bring out the Aston Martin, I just love that. And when they brought out the updated one of my favorite lines is when Q is showing James Bond the Aston Martin before they used it in Goldfinger, and he turns around and he says, "No, don't press this red button. Flip up the top of the gear shift lever, and there's a red button underneath, and you don't press that button." And he's like, "Why is that?" And he says, "Because this section of the roof flies away, and when you press that button, this section of the roof flies away, and it's an ejector seat." And he goes, "You're joking." And Q goes, "I never joke about my work." Q always took his stuff seriously, whereas James Bond was just the big kid in the Q department. He was just the big kid wanting to play and fiddle with things. And what does this do? What does that do? Put that down. Don't touch that. Leave that alone. So there's all the gadgets. There's the gadgets, the cars, the gadgets, the stunts. One of my favorite stunts is in The Man with the Golden Gun, where they leap the car and it corkscrews through the air. So it starts off like this. It does a corkscrew through the air and lands on the other half of the bridge, because there's a bridge that's missing and it's got these angled ramps. And so they take off on one, corkscrew through the air and land on the other one. That is one of like the most amazing stunts ever. The other one that is really cool is in GoldenEye, when he takes the motorcycle, runs it off the end of the runway. There's a plane that is taken off and has no pilot in, or the pilot's died, I can't remember which, but the plane is like nosediving, and he rides the motorcycle off the end of the runway. The bike goes one way, he goes the other one, and he ends up going into the plane and flying away on the plane. It's another great stunt. And I have to go back and read that I think that one was actually done and not CGI'd. One of my favorite ones in another Pierce Brosnan one. Which one was that in? They're doing the street race and he's driving. They're doing a street race and he's driving the tank. He's chasing after they've kidnapped the woman and he's going to rescue her, and he's doing a chase in a tank around the streets of, I want to say Moscow, but I don't think that's right. It's another Pierce Brosnan one. And that's just such a great chase scene. In Casino Royale and Daniel Craig's first movie, in Casino Royale, that whole opening scene is a fantastic foot race. It's a chase, but it's on feet. It's on foot. It's no cars involved. It's just a foot race. And some of the leaps and jumps and things that they do in that one. I mean, all of the James Bond movies have incredible chase scenes in them. There's always the skiing ones. There's car chases. But I always remember Daniel Craig's first one with Casino Royale. There's a fantastic foot race right at the beginning of it. So people go, why do you want to watch? There's my reasons. The actors are amazing. They're all really great actors. some of them were not known when they first came to when they started playing James Bond. Like Ian Fleming did not want Sean Connery to be James Bond because he was an unknown at the time. It took a while to win him around, but he came to like Sean Connery as James Bond. And they all bring something different to the table, some different piece to the table as far as the James Bond character goes. They all have their different strengths. And what I found interesting with Pierce Brosnan is that he was a little bit of Sean Connery and a little bit of Roger Moore, and then the rest was himself. And so he kind of incorporated those. I'm not sure. Timothy Dalton was a little out there. He was just sort of like, this is my way, and that's what I'm going to do. Sean Connery was suave and a little cheeky. They all have their own components that they bring to the table, but I like Pierce Brosnan because he brought some of Sean Connery back and some of Roger Moore back and added his own twist to it as well. So, and they always look so debonair in their tuxedos and, and their suits and their tuxedos. I don't know. I just yeah, they're just good looking guys to look at and watch with all this action and stuff that goes on. Oh, that was another one of the funny ones. That was in there's one at the of an opening scene, and I'm trying to remember which one was playing James Bond at the time. But he comes out of from under the water, and he's got this dry suit on. He takes the dry suit on. He's got a tuxedo underneath. He puts his carnation in his lapel. He goes into this old tank that had been converted into this gorgeous looking house, apartment, flat, whatever you want to call it. But it was inside was beautifully redone. And I was like, I like this place. And he goes and blows it up. And I'm like, why? It was a really cool place, having a house inside an old oil tanker. And so people are sort of like, well, if you like people ask me all sorts of questions about why I like James Bond. And then they're like, well, what do you like to read? I go, my favorite, I will read just about anything. I don't read sci-fi and I don't read fantasy, and I definitely don't read horror. Some fantasy I do read. There is a very small fantasy window in there. But mainly I like action, thrillers, adventures. So some of my favorite authors are like Lee Childs with the Jack Reacher series, C.G. Cooper with Corp Justice series, Robert Ludlum. I mean, he was just an awesome author. One of my favorite books of his is the Gemini Contenders. And that's a really, really cool story. And it's about these two twins. Their father, years ago during World War II, had this secret shipment come through by train, and they took this box off this big box off the train and went and buried it somewhere in the mountains, and they left clues. And they had these tour guides that took them up to the spot to bury this box because of the religious impact it would have. And then years later, the twin sons are sent out to go find this box, and they start off together, but then they go in very different paths. One's the good, one's the bad. And so there's lots of good action in there. There's lots of backstabbing and fight scenes and all of that going along the way to see who would be first to get to this box and either destroy the contents or get the contents to the right people. I can't remember what they did at the end, but I haven't read it for a few years, but I've now got it on my Kindle, so I might go back and read that one. David Baldacci is another author that I like. His one, what's the mini one? Oh, totally escaped me. There's a really cool book that he's got, which is about a woman who basically lives in a camper parked in the middle of this field. She's got a baby. She's still living with her boyfriend. She barely makes ends meet, and she ends up winning the lottery. It's fixed. You know this right from the very beginning that it's fixed, and she has to leave the US and never come back. Well, 10 years later, she comes back. And then there's a lot of stuff that ensues, that she tries to find the guy who fixed the lottery and all sorts of fun and games, because he said if she ever comes back, he's going to kill her. So she's trying to keep a few steps ahead of him. And she had to run because she came home one day and her boyfriend was found dead, and he was a drug dealer. So he was found dead, and the guy who recruited her to win the lottery, I wish I could remember the name of that book. told her that if she came back, that he would let the police know that she's the one that killed the boyfriend, even though it was actually this guy that killed the boyfriend. But you find out all of this right at the beginning of the book. Brad Thor is another one that I like. He's got a book called The Millionaires, which is really cool. Yeah, that's a lot about banking and lost money that gets found and is put into the secret account that these brothers end up putting into another account, like stealing it. And then this whole chase ensues, and they go down to, they're in Disney World in Orlando there, running around the place, getting into the archives, into archive places and the undergrounds of Disney. So you get taken on this journey through the underground network that's at Disney World and things. Mark Greaney, the Gray Man series. Awesome series. He is a CIA agent that has been burned, and basically he's fighting for his life, but at the same time he becomes like a mercenary, but he will only take jobs that meet his moral compass. You think, a mercenary with a moral compass? Yeah, he will only take jobs that meet a moral compass. Like if somebody's a human trafficker, he will definitely take them out. You can hire him and he will take them out. But if it's somebody else who doesn't think justifies being killed, he won't take the job. He has his own moral compass. James Patterson, he's got some really great books, all different. And I like his ones because they go very fast, because each chapter is only up to like 4 pages long. So it's anywhere from 1 to 2, 3, or 4 pages, usually around the 2 or 3 mark. Don Brown. Don Brown writes this great military series. He's got this what's it called? He's got this series which is based around, the first series of his I read, it was centered around the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General's Corp. And so you'd get these people that were the investigators. They would get a case handed to them, and part of the U.S. Navy, and then the Navy Justice, it's a Navy Justice series, and then they would go and investigate what happened to see if they have the right person to be charged, or if the person that they're charging is actually innocent or guilty. And they go and do and it's all about doing the in-depth investigation on that. Plus you also get to see some of the legal stuff behind it as well, because in some of them they've got to go into court and into the military justice court and all that sort of stuff. So you get a glimpse into that sort of life as well. So there's a lot of different stuff that I like when it comes to books and that. So those are just some of the authors that I like. So most people go, why do you like James Bond? Because I like these authors. And this is basically a little bit of all of that on screen. But they're just such cool movies to watch. I find them cool movies. Some people can't stand James Bond. I don't get it, but I respect their opinion. It's like some people go, you don't like, and there'll be some genre of them, so like, you don't like that? And I'm like, no. And they're like, I don't understand. I'm like, oh, I don't understand why you don't like James Bond. But I respect their decision. I respect their decision on things. I actually just found a whole series of Brad's books the other day, a couple of weeks ago, Dragon Slayers of Pern. And I'm like, I wonder what those will be like to read, because he really enjoyed those books. And I went in my writers group, we had an author who wrote books about dragon riders, and concentrate on one in particular, and followed her through when she became a dragon, how she became a dragon rider, and then you learn about her dragon and how they communicate, and all the way through her training to being able to help defend the kingdom with her dragon, and the sort of, and the story and stuff. And I will tell you, I'm not much into fantasy, but I loved her books. They're young adult books, but I absolutely loved them. And I'm just going to see if her latest one was out, because when I was getting ready to, 4 years ago, she was getting close to publishing the next one in the series. I wonder if she's published any more. Better go back and check. But anyway, so that's why I like James Bond movies. And tonight, last night we got to watch Dr. No, and I mean, sometimes it's fun going back and watching some of the older movies and how they were filmed, and the technology that was available at the time. And this is like very basic things that they could do, and what they had available at the time. And tonight we are watching the second one in the series, and the second one, which is From Russia with Love. So that one's going to be a good one to watch. And From Russia with Love, if I remember correctly, he ends up. No, hang on, I might be getting the storylines mixed up. Yeah, I'll have to come back to that one. Yeah, this is something to do with a cipher machine. They have to rescue a cipher machine, or the cipher machine got stolen from the US, and so he's got to go back and get it. I think this is the one that has the big blonde guy in it. And you see him, and you see the, oh God, I can't think of her name. She's this little short older woman who has, when she presses a button on her shoe or something, this little blade pops out of the front, and she tries to take James Bond out with her foot. But she's got there's this big blonde guy who's like all muscular and that, and you see him doing his workouts and stuff, and she's there like drilling him on his workouts and things. I know, hi crazy girl. Anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go and watch. What's I was gonna watch? From Russia with Love. That's right. That was the second James Bond movie. This one came out in 1963. So Dr. No came out in 1962. A year later, they bring out From Russia with Love. So we get to watch that one tonight. Thunderball, and I'll probably tell you the story more on the 4th, on Saturday, was actually meant to be the first James Bond movie. And why wasn't it? Tune in on Saturday and we will enlighten you on that one. So anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. And we will catch, if you're watching the James Bond movies with me on my James Bond Fest, let me know why. And if you watch James Bond movies, why do you watch them? What is it about James Bond character that you like? Is it the particular actor that's playing James Bond that you like only those movies? You're not so keen on the other ones? Why do you watch James Bond movies? So let us know in the comments below. Let us know what your favorite James Bond movie is. Who is your favorite actor that played James Bond? I'll reveal that one soon. But I will tell you this, my favorite James Bond actor is not the one who was in the very first James Bond movie I ever saw. I'm going to leave you with that. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. E konera.